Welcome to a special edition of Taking the Supply Chain Pulse. In this episode, 3 generations of healthcare supply chain leaders dive into where the industry is headed. Fred is joined by 2 incredible guests, Ed Hiscock, the now retired Senior Vice President of Supply Chain Management at Trinity Health, and Damika Miller, the new Senior Vice President of Strategic Sourcing at Trinity Health. This is going to be a candid, insightful conversation you won't want to miss. And here's your host, Fred Kranz.
We want to talk today about several things. Number 1 is about succession planning. Number 1 is about creating new leaders. Another one is about the challenges of the future that are different than the challenges that we faced. We have 3 generations here, really, a real old dog, a recent retiree, and a young lion, if you will, that's going to be out there going through the challenges of today. So let's get started. Why don't we do this? Damika, I think people probably know a little bit more about Ed than they do about you, because this is Ed's 3rd time on the podcast, and this is your first official time on the podcast. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. I am a graduate of Western Michigan University. My career includes working for Trinity Health. I have a long history with Trinity, working here 4 times. When I wasn't working at Trinity, I was at Deloitte Consulting, and I worked for Premier Inc., the GPO. So I have I would say a well-rounded view of the industry and supply chain and how it all fits together. And I started supply chain at one of our hospitals at Trinity back before even EDI was mature. So my first job in supply chain was taking a stack of printed purchase orders and faxing them to suppliers to place orders. So I go way back.
Well, that's good, because I'm glad you said that. One of the things that I've been working on is, the idea of what it takes to lead a supply chain. And I had 7 years of caregiving and non-leadership experience before I had 1 day of management experience. Excuse me. And I think that really has been valuable. And I'm sure that you were grounded and pretty well grounded in how hospitals worked before you really moved into leadership. Is that true?
Yes. So prior to joining supply chain, I was interning for a few years in human resources. So having been a part of both departments that touch everything in the hospital, I got to know the different functions, how they work together, and really saw the lay of the land of the organization. I think that has really helped me in my perspective and my point of view as I've moved through the different roles in the industry.
Yeah, and both of you have brought experiences from other endeavors, either other healthcare organizations, in your case, Damika, specifically the GPO. So you knew how large organizations interacted among themselves before you came back into this leadership position. And Ed, your experience in data information management really gave you developed solutions for healthcare. I know because I worked for you for 3 years, so they were pretty good solutions. How did you integrate, Ed, your non-healthcare knowledge into healthcare, and how did it help you as you came in?
Well, yeah, I could take that a number of different directions, Fred, but kind of leaning into, started and sold a couple of companies. One was, for lack of a better term, consultancy, but that all we did was interim leadership. So myself and the partners in the firm were leaders for typically around a year, sometimes as short as 6 months, sometimes as long as 18 months. But we ran supply chain for a number of organizations, had an opportunity to work over in Germany, and actually did some work in Russia and the Ukraine at the same time on the same trip, which wouldn't happen today. But all of those experiences teach you something, right? every time you get involved with a situation, you get involved with a different organization, you experience a different culture, you see a different end of the supply chain. Because I'd spent some time working for a supplier organization as well. So all of that teaches you a perspective and teaches you how to respect those differences. And they exist, in a large health system like Trinity. We have multiple cultures, right? Because we've got organizations, ministries in different states, 26 to be exact. And you learn to respect how people interact in those different cultures. And the other angle I could take on your question just briefly is my first degree is in engineering, electrical engineering. My second degree is in behavioral science. So along the way, I was educated to use technology, data, and how to influence people and behavior, and how to appreciate how people work together. So tell me I didn't use that underpinning every single day, right? There's just so much that we do in our industry and supply chain that involves data to influence people, behavior change, outcomes, etc. So it all comes together quite nicely in my experience.
So both you guys have had experience outside of healthcare, so you're very well versed and well rounded. Working for one of the largest IDNs in the country. I mean, Trinity Health is huge. It's got to. Damika, was it a daunting challenge when you realized you were going to be the leader of this organization? How did you feel about it?
I felt no. Just short answer, no. It wasn't daunting because Ed had been a mentor to me since the time he became my leader. So I worked with Ed for what I think 8 years. And I tapped into him as a mentor. That's what I like to do I like to choose leaders that I can see mentorship potential there. And I did even in our regular touch bases, he'll tell you that I would pick his brain. I would ask for feedback on my performance regularly and just talk about my career path. How am I showing up? I was asking for the coaching. I was getting that for 8 years. And then as he started thinking about retirement and his succession plan, he knew what my aspirations were. He started preparing me for that. And then once I came into the role officially, we still had time. There was overlap, and we were very, very measured and planned about all of the things that needed to be transitioned to me. And I don't think there was a step missed. He literally inventoried all of the things he was involved in internally and externally and made those connections for me. And so I've been in this role now for over 90 days, and there have been no surprises. And I just feel like I've just smoothly transitioned, picked up the reins, and started running. So I do appreciate his intention there.
And that's interesting because Ed, you and I have both been consultants across this industry, and most of the times we go into places that if they call us, they finally realize they needed help, and very few places have sort of a continuation of leadership. As often or more often than not, if Ed Hiscock were to retire from Trinity, Joe Schmo from outside would be the person that came in and had to learn the whole operation, and there'd be a lag or a slowdown or a pause as someone came on board. What you've done, I think, Ed, is really remarkable and shows great foresight. Tell us how you went about thinking about transitioning leadership in your organization.
I want to go back to Damika's comments first, because I think what she said is just critical. It is probably the most important thing. She talked about her being very intentional with her own career path up to and including, and I'm going to get the words wrong, but like choosing a leader that can support her in the direction she wants to go and an organization that can support her in the direction she wants to go. I could have been this bonehead that would have never supported her to her goals. She'd have packed her bags and left, and Trinity would have lost that resource, right? Would have lost that excellent leader. So I think there has to be intentionality on both parties' part, right? Damika was very intentional. She did insist. She'd come with her list of things to talk about in our one-on-one, and the last one, and we always made time for it, was how am I showing up? What coaching? And we always attended to that. And sometimes that wasn't easy for me to deliver. It wasn't easy for Damika to hear. More times than not, though, especially over time, it was largely all positive, with a but at the end, right? So you really did excellent in this particular meeting, but let's get you in another setting with this other leader that hasn't seen you shine like that, right? So it's not just the two of us, but the two of us working together with intention to move things forward. And there is a level of selfishness here. I didn't want to retire and leave Trinity to a big do-over and leave these people that I've come to care for over 10 years that have been part of the team to start anew and worry about, geez, I wonder if they're going to want this function that I've been running for years in this new supply chain organization. We were really wed to the strategies that we put in place. I wanted to see them move forward after I retired. I wanted to make sure the team saw them move forward after we retired and just stay that course. That's the best thing for the organization is continuity. And to your point, Fred, bringing Joe Schmo in, I think you said, would just take everybody off the rails. Even if Joe decided to do exactly what we were doing, it'd take a minute for him to get up to speed. And Damika hasn't lost a beat. To her point, she's been at it 3 months now, and things are moving along as if I were still there because we were able to affect that handoff, and the organization is further ahead from a supply chain and strategy perspective than they would have been with any other course of action.
Yeah, and Damika, I think you said something too that is interesting. You've had several iterations of experience at Trinity Health. Even though you've gone someplace, you come back, you've gone someplace, you come back. So you are to the people you serve a known quantity, and the organization is to you a known quantity. So when you said, I was sort of surprised that you said you weren't intimidated or overwhelmed when you were going to take over, but then again, I'm not, because with me, when I started out myself at Baptist in Miami, I'd been there for like 5 years before I went and became a director. I knew everyone. They knew me. I was comfortable with them. They were comfortable with me. No one had to learn anything about anybody because you already knew where you were, which is probably, aside from the technical expertise that you bring from your formal training, the experience and the background you have with the organization is a huge advantage. So you felt comfortable right from the start. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did. I think from the leadership transition standpoint, I think that was the easier part, where I could have fallen flat is taking leadership of the team, because I am different than Ed, and he has been the leader. And so to make sure that I was also bringing the team along with the same seamlessness, I spent some very focused time with what I call my executive leaders. And we spent 3 days together in a retreat style, just to really think about who we are as a new team, so that we had the same momentum together moving forward. So I think combining Ed's wonderful transition planning and then the attention to the team and my new role, I think has made it a success out of the gate.
Before we dive back in, you may be asking yourself, is my supply chain future ready? At St. Company, we don't just optimize logistics, we engineer smarter, leaner, and more resilient systems from end to end. From manufacturing to retail to healthcare, our experts bring decades of experience and cutting-edge strategies to transform your operations. Visit and discover how we're shaping the future of supply chain, one solution at a time.
I've known Ed for a long time, okay, so I'm biased here. I don't know many people that have as much empathy and care for the people they work with as Ed brings, along with the technical expertise required to run a complex organization. And make no mistake about it, Trinity Health is a complex organization. And I could name other not nearly as big, but similarly complex organizations in the Detroit market that have not had the seamless leadership over the last 20 years that Trinity has had from as Ed came in and Ed transitioned into his role to now. And a lot of that is because, you know, you were lucky to have been working with Ed. Ed is probably the best of the best. And I would never tell him that to his face, but he really is.
That's how you roped me into 3 of these podcasts, Fred.
You got to go to what, you got to go to what, remember what John Candy said, you got to go to what works for you. If it works, stick with it. So now that you're there, Damika, I guess it gets down to the one gap that many people have, many organizations have, is not thinking holistically forward about the future of the organization and the function. Will you be putting together sort of a career ladder for people in supply chain? And also, I know that you're a young person now and you're going to be around forever, but guess what? I was a young person once, and I was going to be around forever, and forever's been knocking on my door for quite a while here. So have you given any thought to creating opportunities for folks in your operation to shine and have a path forward to keep them employed and producing and delivering good work for Trinity Health?
Yes. So the good news is that Ed also pioneered that. I would say probably in the first year that I reported to Ed, he had structured a part of the team with that intention. So there was a very clear step 1, step 2, step 3. And that is something that that thought process and that intention is we're carrying that over to the rest of the team. How do we promote from within, so keep that momentum going, and then fill the entry level pipeline with different talents. So then we start to have different diversity in thought and experiences. So that is where we're focused right now. So keeping that framework of step 1, step 2, step 3, and those levels, focus on that succession planning at all levels. And then ideally we're filling at that entry level and developing colleagues that way.
Yep. And Ed, as you transition into the beautiful life of retirement and going scuba diving every week and sitting there with your Jose Cuervos and having a wonderful life, what advice would you give Damika about the possible challenges that she comes into this function at probably the singularly most disruptive time that we've ever been in healthcare, and she's going to have to deal with that. So if you were to leave some advice in a little envelope in the top drawer of her desk, what would you say?
Actually, I did leave an envelope.
And I framed it. I have it in a nice frame.
Did you? No, but it just, and the advice is to lead through those difficult times. Mm-hmm. And she's got the tools that she needs. She's got the team that she needs. And it's important too, I think, that people appreciate that succession planning isn't stamping out a mini-me, right? Damika and I are very different leaders. We have different styles. We approach things differently. We actually complemented each other really well. Because I'm easily distracted. It came to me when Damika was talking about that the program that we put in place with intention to set out career pathing, we put that, and then I get distracted with something else. And then those programs can wane. The good news is Damika saw me experiment with a lot of different things over the years. She's got more stick-to-itiveness. She's got more rigor and discipline to stay the course with those programs and projects. So I experimented with a bunch of stuff. Some things worked, some things didn't. The things that work, Damika will now take that to the next level. And so she'll lean into her skill set, and where we have experimented with different ways to try and, getting back to your question, mitigate some of these disruptions that we're having to face in this moment, we experimented with a lot of different things. Some of those things were successful, other things not so much. So Damika will now naturally, with her own skills, take that to the next level and get the team focused on those things that we learned through those experiments worked really well. So, there's all of this that has to be considered when you think about a succession plan. The individuals, their competencies and capabilities, how the environment is, what the requirements of the environment are at that point in time and is into the foreseeable future, and just preparing so that you can choreograph continuity in the strategies and the actions that you've set up for the organization. So I said a lot there, and it sounds more complex than it probably is, but it is a full-time job, just staying attentive to those things, those nuances that are our leadership styles, that are the environment that we have to operate within, including the political environment that you have in every organization and culture you deal with, like we talked about earlier. So there's a lot of nuance to it, but it isn't about just creating someone to act in your stead, if that makes sense.
What's interesting is you talked about the cultural and political environment. There are many supply chains out there who like to say that we are part of the C-suite and we are a strategic part of the operation, but there are very few that really are. And you folks, over the years, with your predecessor and yourself, have built credibility to the point now wherefore at Trinity Health, the supply chain is really considered to be a full C-suite function and has full C-suite credibility. I don't know, Damika, if you realize how few places there are that really are like that, and how fortunate you are to be stepping into a role where you haven't had to fight to get there like your predecessors really have. I'm sure you're going to take it forward, but what do you think your challenges are as you pick up this baton from Mr. Hiscock, as he trades it for his flippers and mask? What do you think your challenges are going to be to keep things going forward?
It's keeping the confidence of our executive leaders. I think we were able to execute on our succession plan because Ed had won over the confidence in his leadership and our supply chain. So there was a trust that he was developing people that could continue an operation in which they found valuable. And so that is my job, is to continue earning that trust and that confidence. And I think that is where I'm being stretched more in this new role. That's the difference I'm feeling in this elevation, is how I am really showcasing the work that we do and demonstrating our value. I think I'm recognizing that Ed did a lot of that and behind the scenes. And I could see that in some of the meetings where we were in together. And I would say to him, I would have thought to frame things the way in that you said it. But now I'm understanding that more as I'm engaging at elevated levels. And it's really being very mindful in positioning our organization as a supply chain organization and the value that it brings to the system.
Yeah, that's a key challenge. And one of the things that I would I would suggest, and I'm sure you're already doing this, is that there are other peers in your shall I say, your age cohort. Uh, I like that word, cohort. That's a new word for me. That are senior leaders in similar organizations. I would say probably Regine Vian at Ochsner is a person that has gone through similar succession opportunities and has made it into a very large and very important operation. There are folks that you can network with that will be sharing your problems. And I know, Ed, we've all done that. We've all found folks that you have to have someone you can talk to that's a peer. And one of the things about supply chain is, in many organizations, the only peer you have at your level is the person that you're looking at the mirror in every morning. So it's important to build relationships outside that, and I hope you're doing that.
Well, I will say that was a part of Ed's mentorship of me, was getting me connected out into the industry. And so it does feel like there's a community of us there. Even he was doing that while we were working together, but even as a part of his transition plan, he was like, oh, do you know these people? Oh, no, let me make that introduction. You need to know them as well. And these are all external relationships and external peers. So I feel well connected thanks to him. And I think that was a key part of his mentoring, was just giving me visibility and access to his network.
Yeah, and I really appreciated this conversation because I think there are probably several scores of supply chain leaders out there that could use the insights that you folks have provided about continuity of operations and continuity of philosophy. Ed, as you're passing off into the sunset, first off, I'd like to personally thank you for being a friend and a mentor, and I'm certain that of all the people you've ever worked with, I am the best person for having you actually apply your behavioral science degree to, because I got to believe I probably was the most difficult guy you've had to work with. So thanks for tolerating me.
Not difficult. You're just unique, Fred. And I know you appreciate that. That's a compliment for you, isn't it?
Yeah,
you love that.
But anyway, thanks, Ed, and Damika. I look forward to meeting you and seeing you more often, and I know you're going to do a great job. I thank you folks for taking time out to talk to me and share your process with us, and hopefully other people can get some ideas from this and sort of build successful transitions themselves. Thanks so much, everybody.
Well, that's all for today. Thanks so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and connect with us online so you'll never miss an episode and can catch up on all the ones you might have missed. Got a topic you're fired up about, or maybe you want to be a guest on the show? Fred would love to hear from you. Just reach out at fcrans@stonge.com. We'll see you next time.